Do you want to be excellent at something, or do you want to be mediocre? That's how we burn out and we get super frustrated because we try to do everything.
But what I didn't realize is that when you're a seed and you've been planted and you're surrounded by darkness and you think that everything's falling down around you, it's actually falling into place.
Whatever your truth is, your personal brand should reflect that. Otherwise, it's not a personal brand. You have a fake brand.
Emily Ford, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, I'm so honored to be here.
Absolutely. There's few people that I genuinely get really excited to speak to, and you are absolutely one of them. And I'm just really excited to dive in and explore some stuff with you. I'm going to read out your incredible bio right now, and then we're going to dive right in. So, researching some of your stuff, 9-figure sales organization by the age of 26, more than 1 million followers across social media. Emily Ford, you, an unstoppable force in the entrepreneurial landscape, founded Fordify with a mission to stand unshaken no matter the challenge. Since 2011, Emily has pioneered transformative paths in wellness, lifestyle, and entrepreneurship, consistently turning dreams into tangible successes. Beyond her business acumen, she's a powerhouse speaker known for her electrifying presentations worldwide. Her ability to weave motivational narratives and practical advice makes her a beloved and inspiring figure. Emily's new venture, Fordify My Brand, promises to empower soulful entrepreneurs to shine authentically with personal branding that communicates their vision, mission, and passion for service. Now, that's that. And I don't know how you feel hearing that about yourself, but it's all true. But the thing I think that I love the most about you from the short interactions that we've had together, I feel like there are certain people, they set out to do stuff to make money and just, be a certain type of way. But the thing that I think shines through so brightly for you is that you just have a heart for giving and for transforming lives. And you don't just say it, like you live that. You have such a kind and compassionate heart, and you have such a fierceness about you as well that just really transforms and changes lives. So I just want to begin by acknowledging and honoring you for that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I always say it's not good enough until a life has changed. And so I believe like your motives in life really do matter, and God knows the motives of our hearts. And so anytime I feel myself getting a big head or anything like that, I'm like, check your motives, check your heart. You know what I mean? And at the other side of that, that's actually where fulfillment lies, is really when you're servicing and changing another person's life.
Mm-hmm. Amen. So I want to start by asking you about a definition, then we're going to go super deep right after that. So in your opinion, big thing about everything you're doing right now is brand. What is the definition of brand in your opinion?
Yeah, well, I specialize in personal branding, which I love because personal branding is all about our unique essence, our soul. But the truth is, when it comes to branding, it is our reputation, and it's what people perceive of us by what we put out. If you don't have anything online, then it's what your coworkers say or your family. It's your reputation is really what a brand is all about.
That makes sense. And I know you often talk about you are your brand. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So with personal branding, so many people, they get overwhelmed. They're like, what do I say? What do I do? What do I not say? How do I perform? And it's like, breathe easy, because you're already it. You're the brand. How you dress and how you show up and how you talk and your accent, and you and I have different accents, and like our vibes, if you will. Do you believe in and having faith, or do you not? Do you swear? Do you not? Do you, what do you talk about? All of that, like, is who you are, and you are the brand. And what I love about personal branding is there's so much to it of yeah, I always talk about the spirit of rejection, and there's so much personal development when it actually comes into building a personal brand, because a lot of this stuff comes up for people and they're like, oh, wow, I'm not comfortable with myself. And I'm not, it kind of like shows where you're not comfortable, right? And so my job is to help you understand your unique gifting, bring all that out so you can have a brand visually that represents who you actually are.
I think that summarizes it really well. And I agree. I feel like personal branding is one of the best personal development vehicles that you can ever have, because to have the courage to begin to put yourself out there, you got to deal with some stuff potentially. So I get it. So that probably, there's a quote, and I'm going to read a few of your quotes throughout today and get you to
Okay.
jam on it. And you're probably going to say, was that me? I'm like, yeah, it was. So
Ah,
against your greatest battles are your biggest breakthroughs. So I'm curious, could you share about a potentially a painful experience and a pain that you endured that led to your purpose and your personal brand and mission today?
oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, there are so many. There's ones like in the love romance department, and then there's some in like the business department. And, I'll just share one business wise first. We could be here all day, but
Uh-huh.
business wise, I had this identity in the network marketing space of being like the youngest millionaire, and it was my identity was crushing it in network marketing, speaking on all the stages. But when my head would hit the pillow at night after doing it and accomplishing it for over a decade, I was just like, I know I'm supposed to be doing something else. I just don't know what it is. And it was like that agony in your soul. Like you're just like, I don't know. And then all the little thoughts come in of like, what if people think I'm going to leave them behind? And what if people think I'm too good for them? And what if, like, all the thoughts, and how would I even have time to do something else? And could I do what these other people, like, all those limiting beliefs, I call them strongholds. They were just being deeply planted inside of me. And then through gaining the courage to go, well, what if I don't do something else? Like, I'm just going to be watching some of my mentors go and write the book and go speak on these other stages and go maybe talk about their faith, but I'm just going to sit here doing the same thing year after year, day after day. And so I finally just had the courage to to like do something and start a podcast and all of that. But in the period of kind of leaving actively growing in the network marketing space, I was like in the messy middle of trying to figure out, Owen, like, what is my message? And if I don't do this, then who am I? Like, who am I actually? And what can I teach people? And it sounds like so elementary, but it honestly was so hard, especially when you're used to succeeding and crushing it and getting notoriety and all the things that feed our ego. I was just like, I suck at this other business model. I don't even know. I mean, I can't keep an assistant to save my life. Like, what's wrong with me, you know?
Mhm.
And it's in the messy middle of figuring it out and like searching your heart and searching your mind and refining. That's where God's like, no, you have these other gifts, and here, let me reveal them to you. And then stepping into that and like leaning in and being obedient to like, you got to keep going. I'm pressing in. That's when, like, almost 4 years later, I birthed this new company, Fordify, that you and I were sharing offline. That it's like the wind of heaven's at my back and everything is easy, effortless. People are coming to me. I'm like booked for months and months. It's like this amazing thing. But what you don't see is like in the in between where I was like, oh my God, like, should I go back to this even though I don't really want to do it anymore? You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
it's that refining process of searching your heart, searching your soul, and maybe learning some new skills, which I definitely had to do.
Mhm. And uh, you, it's like in the messy middle, your mess can become your message eventually. But you hit the nail on the head. It doesn't matter who you speak to. Everybody goes through stuff, and all those limiting beliefs and stuff you experience. And I know, your background that you came from. What was it that kept you going during those times, though? Because it's easy for people to say, yeah, just keep going, just push through. But what was it that got you through those tough times while you were in the messy middle?
Mm. Well, actually, I mean, truthfully, I found the Lord like deep. I always believed in God, but I had an encounter and I just got healed from things of my childhood. I didn't even know like this could be possible growing my faith like this. I had no idea. And so I found a church that's non-denominational, and I started to learn like so much stuff that's in the Bible. I just never knew this. I grew up in a crazy upbringing, with a single mom. And in this process, like of pursuing God, it's almost like I had to let the old me die. Like there was a lot of false idols. Like my gosh, I took a picture of me laying on my Bentley at one point. Like who does that? Like just stupid. It's so stupid. But I share all this is because I started to learn about faith and like what does it really mean to not be disciplined but be obedient to what God is
Mm.
telling you, and also like learning to discern what is the enemy trying to do as well. And for new listeners that are like, what is she talking about? That could be like those limiting beliefs that come in. Yeah, that's the enemy, right? And so I honestly, Owen, and I know I can tell you this as a brother, but I think that the Lord was seeing if he could trust me, and he needed to refine me and kind of like reshape me, and all these things that I thought that I needed for my self-worth and for my identity were actually just false idols that I had. And so I had to like lay it out all down. And so how I did that and progressed is just by going, okay, no, God first, I am second. Like, let me just really do this the right way and see what happens. Like in every area, even like with my husband, I've almost been with like for a year. Like we both like laid everything down. Like we're like, okay, and really walking that out, and that's how I got through. If I did not have my faith, I wouldn't even have this company right now. I don't know where I'd be, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I get it. 1000%. I know when I first had my encounter with God, September 2022. And I don't know if this was your experience, but I know you described some of that. Then I thought that all of a sudden, cool, business is going to take off. Everything's going to be amazing and perfect. Now I know God, let's go. But what actually happened was it was almost like I got buried. I was like a seed and I got buried, and business started going backwards. I started to experience challenges. But what I didn't realize is that when you're a seed and you've been planted and you're surrounded by darkness and you think that everything's is falling down around you, it's actually falling into place. And then I learned that the first thing that happens with a seed before it can reveal its potential is it has to be cracked open. And it has to break open in order for what's inside to be revealed. And I know for myself personally, I had to be humbled. I had to
Mm-hmm.
realize that it's not about me and my greatness. It's about who I serve. And I apologized and I healed relationships, and I had to submit and humble myself. So, uh,
Oh,
so I agree with you 1000-fold. And I can relate to you a lot with that. And it's been a huge part of my journey too. What I'd love to do is
wow.
provide a dichotomy to that for the listeners as well, because there's many people who'll be listening to this that are men and women of God and that are powered by faith. But then there's some that are like, cool, that's so good for you.
Right.
But I also heard you on another podcast, I think, jamming on like Tom Bilyeu and how he goes into his dark side, and how sometimes you've had to access your dark side to build what you've built. So can you
Yeah.
jam on that a little bit for me and tell me
Yeah.
what the dark side is for you?
Yeah, it's I love this because it's so often, yes, like what you focus on expands, what you focus on you find every time. But for me, I tend to look at like, what if I don't do it? And where will I be if I don't do it? Where will I be today? I mean, you could look at it in terms of like health, because like I'm a biohacking health, fitness, healthy person. Like that's just how I operate. Like, okay, well, if I go do that tonight, how am I going to feel tomorrow? We could look at it that from that perspective, but even just from the, the business perspective, like going, if I don't do this, then where will I actually be? And so I've always been, it sounds like twisted, but like I like to look at the dark side because it motivates me because I do not want to be that, you know? Yes, I focus on what I want, of course, but I get really good at like looking at, okay, let's play like the opposite and what's gonna happen. I'm like competitive even with myself. Like, I came up with this new business concept. It's different than what I see that people are doing right now, and I'm like, okay, you go first. Like this is most people are holding on to cash right now, and I'm like, it's God's economy. I'm gonna invent a new business, and I'm gonna blow this up. And I'm actually like looking for a building in California, and people are like, what? What are you doing? Like it's you should save for a rainy day. You should. And I'm like, no, I actually think the opposite. And I actually go, if I don't, then somebody else will. And so it's like this weird thing with my mindset where I imagine like the bad side of it, the fear side of it, of losing everything. And then I go, okay, I'll do it. Put me in.
Mm, And the reason I ask that is because I feel like there's a lot of people think that when it's faith, it's all just love and sunshine and rainbows, but there's a fierceness to it, and I see that in you too. So I'm gonna read this quote from a video I watched the other day with you.
Oh
There's
my
two
God.
quotes of yours that I'm obsessed with because I see that fierceness and fire in you. What will people think of me? Get over yourself. It's selfish. You've been given a gift that only you have. Our job is to discover that gift and exploit it in the service of others. That's one.
Mm-hmm.
Second one, you don't need permission to be authentically you because your brand should be personally you. So let's shift
Yes.
gears a little bit here and go into branding. My question to you is like, how the heck do I find my uniqueness and my gift? It's easy for you to say, discover your gift and use it in the service of others, but how the heck do I find out what makes me unique?
Mm.
I don't know
Oh
how.
my gosh. Yeah. Well, there's so many different ways that you can. What I have people do is take out a notebook and I have them write out their PIS. So, what are your passions? What are your interests? What are your skills? Just to like get you in that mindset
Mhm.
of things that you're super passionate about, things that you're genuinely interested in. What are the skills that you've acquired over how many years of working or even being a mom or a dad? And it could be customer service, it could be for me, I'll just give you a random weird example, is like I grew up with like not a lot, single mom. And then when I made a lot of money, I would like kind of hoard everything because I didn't come from a lot. So I recognized I wanted to have a really clean home. I don't want a lot of things. I don't like trinkets. So my passion became on my spare time, I would like study organization. Like, how do you do that? Right. I'm like a business chick. I'm like, how do I do this? That became a passion, that became an interest, and now it's a skill. Like people walk into my house, they're like, is this like a model home? I'm like, no, I just want to live without clutter and I want to take care of everything I own and give the rest away because it's really not mine anyways. So why I share this with you is because someone might be like, well, you have a branding company. Why are you talking about organizing? Well, because it's who I am. I like everything neat and tight, and I like to teach other people little tips and tricks along the way. So
Mm,
this activity with your PIS, your passions, interests, skills, when you start to like really do it, and I make all my students like sit for, 10, 20 minutes, and I'm like, go deeper, go deeper, go deeper. Suddenly you're like, I'm actually pretty cool. Like there's a lot that I'm skilled in that I didn't even realize is like a good thing. I could teach this. I could do something with this, and just really getting in that mindset of who I am instead of who I am not is going to change the game. And then there's just a whole heck of a lot of stingy people out there that are holding on to everything. And this is what I find when I coach people is there's so much insecurity that is so egocentric. It is like you're insulting God. I
mm,
don't know how else to tell you that. Like you're saying this as like, oh, I'm insecure and I'm scared and I don't want to put myself out there. And my thing is, well, then go back to finding your faith. Because if you say this happened with me. I was coaching a woman and she's like, I love God. I'm a woman of faith. I blah, blah, blah. I'm like, if you say though you do and you know God, KNOW, then why are you insulting him every single day by not activating your gifts and helping other people?
mm,
I don't, what is up with the confusion? Because we're both reading the same Bible and I
mm,
don't get it. And
mm,
when I do that, it kind of provokes something in people
mm,
where they're like, did she really just say that? And I'm like, yeah, I did. Like, stop thinking you're so cool that you can't just show up and be who you are. Like, you're so selfish. Get over yourself.
mm,
And I know it stings people, but it's like you're literally a victim to your own story, and that's what's happening. And if you read the living word of God, you see, when I became a believer, because I was so much in the personal development world, I almost had to undo the brainwashing
mm,
that I had been, the ideology I've been indoctrinated in from being in the business world for so many years. And there's some really good stuff, but some of it goes against what the living word says. So every time I'm trying to like figure out like what's true and what's a lie, blah, 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 I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what God says about me. Like, this is what he says about me. So if he says this, then no man can be against me. Like, I don't care who's against me, you know? And so that's like my perspective on it. And the truth is when you like really like live in service, that's where you become like this happy, joyful person, because that's really what we're meant to do, is to serve each other.
mm, mm. That's so beautifully and powerfully put. I asked that question partially for myself as well, because I know that like most of my life, that's exactly what I wrestled with. Growing up, I was really
Mm,
shy and anxious and just insecure. I didn't know how to look at somebody or ask them how they were doing. I'd walk past someone,
wow.
I'd turn my head. And then my first business was actually called Authentic Creation. And that wasn't because I was authentic. That's what I was craving. And then
Mm,
I built a successful business, but I always continued to ask, well, like, what makes me different? Why would anyone care? And then even hiring mentors like 2 or 3 years ago, they would say, what's your unique value proposition? What sets you apart? And I'm like, I don't freaking know. That's why I'm hiring you. And I didn't realize, but upon reflection, answering
mhm,
questions like you just described in the
mhm.
beginning, I realized recently that my uniqueness is my authenticity,
Yeah,
and it's owning who I already am and who God says I am. That's the gift.
yeah,
That's the gift. It's not trying to be someone that you're not or position yourself to be. It's going, yo, the things about me that I think are weird and quirky, like quadruple down on that, because that's what I'm here for and who I'm meant to serve with that.
mm,
And so I think that
mm.
perspective is really, really beautiful. What I would ask
Oh.
you then is, so let's say you fired someone up. You're like, let's start, you've got to own who you were created as. When somebody's done that work on themselves and they've answered those questions that you've got them to answer about themselves, and they're kind of getting a little bit more clarity,
Mhm.
how do you help them identify the gift or gifts that they need to then
Mhm.
build their brand around? Because I feel like this is one of the most common things that I face when speaking to people as well. It's like, well, but what is, okay, cool. These are some things about me, but what are my specific gifts that I can use?
Yeah, I always ask these people. And it was funny. I was on with the VP of a major worldwide company who's like, I need to build my personal brand. So here I am.
Hmm.
And I asked her, what breaks your heart? And she was like, what? And she's like, I thought we were going to talk about like my skills and how I can do leadership and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, how I can do time management. And I'm like, no, I want to know what breaks your heart. And she's like, um, when people don't believe in themselves and when
Hmm.
they're stuck and they sit in my office and they're going through like a divorce or they're going through a loss and like I just want to help them and when people don't see like their greatness I'm like okay go deeper. Why does that break your heart? And so we're like 5 levels in and she's like because I guess it's like who I needed at one point in my life when I was homeless and I'm like oh because that's who you used to be and you're most powerfully positioned to serve who you once were.
Hmm.
And usually what breaks our heart is again an area of our life where we've had loss or we've gone through and we feel like, oh my gosh, I'm on the other side of it. I want to help in that area. And if you look at like even what I'm doing, it's like I've done my own branding for over a decade, and it's provided me with endless opportunities and an asset. No matter what company I'm aligned with, I'm good, right? It breaks my heart when I meet people that don't have that because I'm like, what if? What happens when you change? What breaks my heart? I love talking to powerful women that have issues with men. And I love now coaching them through because I can identify the reason you're not attracting that really loving, godly man is because you're kind of crazy on unhinged and you're like an alpha power chick. And like you won't even let him love you if he tried, you
Uh-huh.
know? And it's like, so we're called to redeem in the area that we once lost. And, you know, um, I just feel I just feel like people need to explore that. And when you find your uniqueness and you kind of look at this message and you're like, oh, this pulls me into the future because it actually like motivates me. It's bigger than me. Well, then let's put that with your personal brand and you're the vessel, but that can be one of your main messages. And like, you don't have to directly monetize that message, but you're going to attract a lot of people in that you can serve. And now that they see, oh, you're a consultant in XYZ company, they're going to trust you more. Because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is build trust. That's what the greatest brands do is the consumer trust them. And if we're trying to talk about things that we really do not care about, how is someone ever going to really trust us, you know?
Hmm. Mm. What just came up for me was that our pain is a preview of our purpose, and our
Oh,
personal brand should be to heal the problem and the pain of the past. And so
oh,
I feel like what I'm hearing you say is that your uniqueness is like who you are, what you stand for, what upsets you, what keeps you up at night, but then also the unique problem that you feel called to serve based on the pain you experienced in the past. And
hmm,
one of my most favorite quotes is that God is always using our experiences, both good and bad, to develop our character to match our calling.
wow. That's so
And
beautiful.
and we sometimes miss what we've been through, or we dismiss it, or we realize, wow, I wish I don't wish that away. And I feel like that's
Hmm.
someone said to me is God won't give you pain, but if you give it to him, he will use it. And then you can use that to serve people. You know, we go through stuff so we can grow through it to then help the previous
Mm,
version of ourselves. So I really love that. So I
so good.
I'm curious to know, you yourself personally have become known as, you know, a global keynote speaker. I think I saw that you're even named as the most influential speaker under 40, which is pretty incredible. And you're
Thank you.
always doing different things to monetize your brand, and
Yeah.
I love that. So, uh, for somebody that, you know, is, let's say, considered an industry leader, let's say the guy who has an the guy or gal that has an 8-figure real estate company, and they have this expertise and they're already well known for a certain thing. How can somebody then monetize, like leverage that experience or that reputation to then monetize it in different ways, in a way that then
Mm.
supports their current business?
I love it. And, let's just take like real estate for an example. I'm speaking at a big real estate conference out here. And when I work on realtors' brands, I'm like, nobody cares about the house in this little area over here. Stop posting that on your Instagram. And why I think like personal branding and my philosophy on it is like, yeah, sure, you've got one massive stream of income. You're the pro in that department.
Mhm.
But like, are you super into like being a girl dad? Are you super into, traveling to here? Are you super into your whatever? There needs to be like, let's look at who you are more than just the suit and tie and selling houses. And so that's the first like phase. It's like, I don't want to take away that you're the number one realtor in the neighborhood. Like, let's keep that going. But like, let's look at some of the skills that you've acquired through being a realtor that you could teach other people. It could be, and this is what I actually did, by the way. This is how I grew my following. When I started network marketing and everybody was like, stop talking about your products, no one cares.
Yeah.
I started to realize I need to like attract people that want to do the business. So I'm going to like talk about leadership and I'm going to talk about how I like work from home and give tips. And so I was like reading John Maxwell and then I'm like trying to like spin it on my own little way with like 800 Facebook friends.
Mhm.
And what happened was, because I lived in this like beach club apartment, one of the people, because there's a lot of like young, super successful people that lived in the building, they were in real estate and different mortgages and things like that. And they were like, "What do you even do? Like, you're so motivating. I love going to your page." And I'm like, "Oh, they don't even understand that I sell protein shakes for a living.
Uh-huh.
Like this is cool." And that's when I realized, oh, here, this is what attraction marketing is. And if I can give value to people that makes them coming back, then when the time is right, if it ever is, I'll sell to them in the DMs or what have you. But this is real attraction marketing. And so with any person, I don't care who it is, it could be somebody who's never even had a job, but they have raised 3 kids and they're out the door. They have tips to give, they have wisdom to give, they have knowledge to give. And so it's like really crafting a game plan. We all need a game plan. Even if you could just spit creativity out of your mouth all day long, we still need a strategy. So that's where it's like, what are my content pillars going to be? And this just helps you have variety. And then what I do is typically with each client, they have anywhere from 3 to 5 topics that they talk about. Now, underneath a topic is like a bunch of subtopics, but I make sure that at least, like, let's pretend they have 5 pillars. I make sure that at least like 2 of them are going to like pay the bills. So it all kind of flows together. And that is a real strategy to help you attract more people in, add value, not get super bored about talking about the same thing every single day. But then let's just pretend that you decide one day, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be a realtor anymore. Or like the girl I have flying in tomorrow to shoot her brand, she was taught, hey, you're a fat loss coach, you're a weight loss coach. Only ever show your body, show your clients' bodies, only ever show transformation photos, only ever talk about nutrition. And she came to me and she's like, I am so sick of talking about fitness and health that I could poke my eyes out. She's like, my whole personal brand, no one really knows who I am. They think I'm just like a model who helps people lose weight. And I was like, well, what breaks your heart? And I went through this whole process with her. And we found all this amazing stuff, and we're going to redo her content strategy. So that way, when she wants to shift, which she does, she's not pigeonholed to one thing. Does that make sense?
It does. It does make sense. And so, I think you kind of you shared how you started talking about in your journey leadership and all these other things, and then you had people come to you. So I'm curious from your perspective, as your brand built, in terms of then adding different ways to monetize around that. Did you have people come to you and ask, "Hey, can I sponsor you?" or "Hey, will you come and speak?" Or did you then use your brand to go seek those things? Let's use you as just a quick case study, if you don't
Yeah,
mind. How did you
yeah.
take the brand that you were building and have built to then seek different ways to? I always like to look at it. My mentor shares like your personal brand is the head of an octopus, and that's what people know you for. And then the tentacles are like different things that you could do. It could be a
Oh,
speaking business, it could
so
be a
good.
course, it could be sponsorship, it could be deals, it could be whatever.
Hmm.
So how did you go about it? Did you seek those things, or did people come to you? Like how did you monetize the brand once you had then built it?
Yeah, so good. I I was speaking for free and got the skill sets doing that through my network marketing company, giving like a million
Of course.
presentations and then keynotes. And the minute that I realized that I love doing that, I started to think, oh, how could I do this for other people? And so I take all my free content, meaning free, like nobody paid me, right?
Yeah.
Like I did it for free.
Uh-huh.
And, you use the halo effect, which is the cognitive bias of, why should you buy this brand name versus this one? It's just all how you present it. And I started to be very intentional, knowing I definitely want to get paid to speak,
Hmm.
knowing I'm not going to get paid to speak right away. But if I start to be intentional and let people know that I can speak for your company and start to like really have a strategic game plan, then we're going to get those deals and we're going to get those keynotes. And so that's something I think a lot of people are like, oh, once I arrive to this point, then I can ask for sponsors, then I can ask to get paid. It's like, no, you have to make a conscious decision. I was speaking in the MGM arena filled to the brim with people not making a dime, but hey, I got really good footage. Okay. And I'm like, why don't I go to a speaking agent and say, what would it take for me to be a legit speaker? And they're like, oh, a corporate trainer? Yeah, here's how it works. And I just started to study that craft. And so it's a dance. And even with like getting sponsorships and all that stuff, it's like you first got to say, do I want this? Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I do, you know? And
Mhm.
then you're like, okay, how do I play this game then? Because they're all games. And I know some people are like, what? But it's like, no, it's a game. If you want a brand deal, it's a game. It's if you want a speaking gig, it's a game. So it's like I just go, well, how do the people in that arena play that game? And then I'm like, as soon as you reveal the curtain, you're like, oh, here's how they do it. I'm like, okay, most entrepreneurs don't pay you to speak like at some of these big speaking things that you see. It's the corporate people that pay because they have money. And so I'm like, okay, it's like knowing the game and how to play it.
Mm.
And
Mm.
also understanding, and I hope this speaks to your audience, is that you don't need to arrive to play the game. You have to decide to play the game. There's people that are less qualified than you that are already doing it,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know?
Amen. Amen. I always love to, in terms of you saying driving the knife in type of quotes, it's like, yo, there are people out there that are way less intelligent, way less all the things that are making
All
way
the
more money than
things.
you because they've got more courage to go out and do it. But the thing I observed, and I love that about you, Em, is it's like there's a million different ways you could make millions of dollars, but there's only one right way for you. And it's not about how do I monetize a brand, it's how do I want to monetize my
Yeah.
brand. Because you might say, well, the best way is I can go and do digital courses and online. You might hate online. Or you say, oh, well, Emily's an extraordinary keynote speaker, so I have to be a speaker. But you hate speaking. And so it's about deciding what you want to do. And I can't remember the
Hmm.
exact quote you said, but it's not about knowing like the playing the game one. Could you remember
Yeah.
what you said?
I mean, I'm just in flow state
All
over
right.
here,
Anyway,
but
anyway, it was
yeah,
good, and I feel like
it's
it's the
just like
intentionality of it.
it is. And it's also knowing when to launch and when to pursue. And
Yeah.
what I mean by that is sometimes I'll get on calls with high achievers, women in particular, and they're like, I want to do this and I want to do that and I want to, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you just named off 5 different businesses.
Yeah.
So which one do you want to do this year?
Yeah.
And like, that's something I learned, like the power of momentum and driving the line. And so what I mean by that is like right now I'm building like a real legitimate, bigger, larger than life company. And I have said no to, I got asked to speak in Thailand and I said no. And it's like, I share all this because I know what it takes to build and create momentum in certain lanes. And it takes your time, energy, effort, money, all of it. And so it's like, do you want to be excellent at something or do you want to be mediocre? And I see a lot of people dispersing their energy out like so many different, and I'm like, if you would just pick one thing this season and go all in on it, you would actually see a greater ROI until it gets its legs, until you get the team, until you get the thing. And then you can go and do that next phase. And I just think it's like, I'm always asking God for intelligence. I'm like, Lord, just please give me intelligence. Like, tell me the intelligent thing to do because that's how we burn out if we don't. And we get super frustrated because we try to do everything, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, 100%. And one of the things that I think frustrates me the most is when you see people saying that you need to have multiple streams of income. And then there's all these people with multiple streams of income mastering none. And really, usually the person that becomes rich focuses on one thing, then they invest the profits from that into others. But we won't dive too much into that. Another
Yeah.
quote, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Another quote of yours: stop trying to be a spokesperson for the destination. Start being an authority for the journey. What does that mean?
Right. Oh my goodness. We just want to tell everybody like who we are, why we're great, like why you should join me. And I have this philosophy and it's in my method. It's take me on the journey. And it's like imagine that you have your own little reality TV show. We all actually do have the capability on this on Instagram, on our iPhones. And it's like show people you're doing it. Like, no, 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 no. Don't just show people your new logo when it's done. Show people you deciding on should I do this or should I do that? Or should I, and I just think there's something so integral when we don't just show people the end result, we show people what it takes to get there because this is the law of the buy-in, actually. And what this does is subconsciously people are bought in. They're like, yo, I've been with you. I watched you. Like, there's some days I have 3 team members downstairs in my house, like working out of my house. We're looking for a building. Like they see me like steaming my clients' clothes as we're getting this new, like people are more invested. And I also call this the drag and drop philosophy. So
Mm,
drag me with you and then drop your new thing. I
mm,
don't care if you're like, oh, I'm going to drop this. Oh, something's coming. Nobody cares. What are you even working on? Why should I be invested? And it's like so many people and we've been taught, and I think it's like this whole like social media from 5, 10 years ago where it's like everything's perfect, just go rent the stuff, lay on the cars, like rent your
mm,
house, like do all these things to like make everything look tight and right. And it's like, no, I'd actually be way more in to you sitting in your car before you go do your sales meeting and you tell me like how you get your mind right after like you just got in an argument with your spouse,
mm,
kids were screaming, and now you got to get your head right to go like drop this business deal with someone. Like that's more valuable to me than like you sipping your coffee in your house, like in, you know what I'm saying? And so this whole philosophy of take me on the journey, you have to be mindful to capture your life that you think is really boring, but it's actually not boring because you're pursuing something worthwhile. And I'm telling you, it's what I've done. Like the DMs I get where people are like, I've been with you through like you being single, you being like going to therapy twice a week, you finding God. Like they've been through it. And they're like, I'm all in, And it's
mm,
just like that feels really good because I have nothing to hide.
mm. Yeah, I think it's such a beautiful distinction, and people have big bullshit radars these days, and they don't
Oh,
want
yeah.
perfection. They want real. Would we rather follow somebody who's always right or always real? And
Hmm.
a really practical distinction that I have made over the last 12 to 18 months from a content creation standpoint. What's the number one thing we want to avoid being when we write content, right? We want to avoid being cringy. Like,
Oh, yeah.
like who's it's
Oh, yeah.
how to build a 10K a month, how to do that, and so the distinction that I found was going from how to content to how I. Because think about it, the moment you say how to build a nine-figure real estate business, like, who are you? Even if you've done who are you to tell me? It's
So
almost like the
good.
tall, and I know in Australia it's like the whole tall poppy thing. But the moment you say, here's how I either did it or am doing it, no one can argue against it. No one can question it because it's only content that you can create. And
Wow.
it's such a, I always like to share with my clients, don't say how to, say here's how I'm doing it, or most importantly, even better, here's how I did it. And if you haven't
Mm.
done stuff, go and do stuff and stop wondering why you're not breaking through because you're trying to. The only reason or time that you ever feel like you're an imposter is if you're being one. So if you want to be
Wow.
able to share great stuff, go do great things and stop trying to posture. And like you said, if you can go along the way and say, hey, here's how I'm doing this. I'm afraid to put even if you're a really successful, industry leader, hey, this is new to me. Here's how I'm doing it. This is the journey I'm going on. This is new to me. Hey, guys, I want to share this with you. People value that, I think, more than anything. And you do a beautiful,
Mm.
beautiful job of that.
Mm.
So thank you.
So good.
Mhm.
That's like a major, major, major tip for people. Like
Yeah.
and it's all about, again, it's going to come from that place of conviction because you've done it. And I also think there's a healthy element in personal branding to also say, like, here's the value stuff of like, here's how I've done it. But then I also think if you can add a little bit of flavor, whether it's in the stories or whatever, where you're like, here's what I'm working on. Like,
Mhm.
I'm not perfect in this area. Here's what I'm learning. I think there's something about it that makes people go, oh, good. They're not trying to be an expert in everything, you
Mm.
know?
It
It
humanizes.
humanizes you. Yeah, exactly.
I love that we said that at the same time.
I know.
So it's about having mental, physical, and spiritual fortitude. It's about never being shaken. That's what fortitude is about. So tell us a little bit about your new venture, Fortify My Brand. Why I'm curious to know, why was it, because it's a pretty big brand shift that you're experiencing right now. Why was it so important for you to build your new brand around helping others be unshaken no matter the
Yeah.
challenge? Why is that so?
Yeah. Well, because no matter what, life is going to throw every but one of us curveballs. And whether you're in the heat or you're coming out of the heat or whatever, like you've got to put on your armor. You've got to get stronger. You've got to realize what's coming at you and against you and why. And you've got to develop that fortitude that you can withstand the storms and even that you can handle the abundance as well. Let me just throw that in there. And so with Fortify, it's really all about fortifying your personal brand. That's the first company we're building out now, and it's like all been through what I've done, right, in the past decade. And what I've put together is a method where people can really learn really simply, okay, how do I build a personal brand? I have no idea how to do this. I have a method with it, 112-page book on like literally how to do it. And then we also have a Fortify faith call as well, because what I have
Mm,
recognized is people can know the how, but if they don't understand rejection and what it's rooted in and the spiritual game of business and life, they're going to miss it. Or you're going to build something that isn't really true to who you are. And so we also have an optional spiritual side again, everything I do is what I teach. And so I'm like, hey, if you want to learn how to be financially abundant, if you want to learn how to break through, this is where it's at. But then I actually have my agency as well, where we work on people's brands like VIP status. We build out logos and colors and really match your brand identity to who you are, which has been super fun. And then I have the Fortify show that's going to be starting here shortly.
yeah, I'm excited. We'll make sure at the end of this that we link everywhere that everyone can get in contact with you
Yeah.
to work with you in whatever way they're feeling called to right now, which I know many people will do. One thing I want to just dive into a little bit here from what you just said. What is it? The three things that we're told we shouldn't speak about: sex, politics, religion. And so you speak so openly and beautifully about your faith, and I love it.
Mm.
One of the things that many people, when they go to build a brand, are afraid about is, well, what if I talk about this? Like, can I talk about that? Is that okay? Especially
Mm.
faith. Faith is one of the main things that if you speak to a lot, don't make your brand about that you don't speak about that, so many people have said that to me. Oh, and stop mentioning God. You're going to turn so many people off. And so you're doing that
Yeah.
unapologetically. So I'm curious, how does that work? Like, what would you say to someone, or what's your driving
Mm.
force behind? Yeah, let me say that. What's your driving force behind being so unapologetically with your faith when it's potentially a thing that someone says don't talk about?
It's so good. Well, if you read the Bible, it says for us to go out and tell the world. Like, literally, this is what it says in the Bible. Like, this is what we're supposed to do. Just like I said, that we're uniquely and wonderfully made and we're unique in his image and all these wonderful things that we shared. If you look at the Bible, we're supposed to go out there and spread the word. And so when people are like so fearful of
Mm.
sharing the word, I'm like, you're probably not in the word. Like if you're so concerned, then you're putting man above God. So who's your mantle? Like who's your God? It's people and
Oh,
society and keeping up with the Jones. Like that's your
oh,
God. You're like God isn't really your God. But if you fear the Lord, Jerry Lorenzo made the most beautiful brand called Fear of God. He's an amazing artist here in LA. It's a clothing brand called Fear of God. And what that means to fear God is to know better. I know better. I'm not going to go into a place and give a 60-minute speech and not tell the truth to the people, because I will be convicted in my spirit and I will know you could have done better. And when you're connected to God, you should fear him. And what that means, if he can trust you with little, he's going to give you more and more and more. And so when I was in my period of just like growing my faith, what he was doing is refining me. And he was like, can you let your old ways die? Can you not go to that party in Hollywood, even though it's like super fun and it's all the celebs? Like, can you die? Can you get rid of that? Can you donate that? Can I trust you? Can I trust you? Can I trust you? And it's like, yes, you can trust me. I will lay it all down. Can you trust me with can I trust you with my people? And so I think of my mantle, my following, whatever we call these things these days, is for God, and I'm the vessel. And the moment I get that twisted and I think I'm more important, then we have a really big problem. And I just feel like it's a spiritual check for people. And listen, I understand, because I can go hang out with the lost girl having sex with two different guys during the week in LA, finding love in all the wrong places. Like, I can go sit with her and I can talk to her and have a good conversation. But I also know that I need to go to the holy ground, battleground. So I need to go refine myself then I go out into the battleground and I go help those people. And I don't judge those people, because I once was that girl, by the way. And so, with that being said, whatever your truth is, your personal brand should reflect that. Otherwise, it's not a personal brand. You have a fake brand, and good luck keeping up with that. That's what I would say.
Mm. That was a polarizing question and a polarizing answer, and I love it. And I think the biggest thing in all of everything that you just said then is be true to you. Mm-hmm. And if one of my core values is authenticity, and what that means is and I'm still working on this every day, but the same person in one room as you are in another. And, I was on a call with my best friend last night for like an hour, just talking about God. Wow. And just talking about fear of God, funnily enough, and about how when you have enough humility to know that everything that you achieve and do, you could not do without God, and to give glory to him, it is such a extraordinary depth of power when you own the power of God within you and say, it's not because of me. It's like, it's limitless. Right. And then also what that gives you too is like also knowing. So someone gave me the definition of humility. I think you'll love this, is owning what you're world class at, but knowing what you need to go to God and others for.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's just, I love it. And if you're speaking in one circle about a certain thing, and if you would go home and speak to your wife or husband and be like saying this and that, like share that stuff, because isn't that who you are?
Right.
And so, man, that's so deep. You're building a fake. So everybody listening, it's not saying go and speak about God. It's saying if you're speaking about one thing and you're not sharing that in your brand, you're building a fake brand. So my question to you before, I'm going to give you a quick rapid fire, and then we'll work towards.
Oh.
Yeah, I like to do a rapid fire. It's fun. And then we'll work towards wrapping up. I was speaking, we use real estate as an example recently, but we're speaking to a guy who's got a $60 million real estate company here in Australia, crushing, really, really successful guy. And he's like, I've been holding off from putting myself out there. I want to just go make my business. I feel like I've got to make it better. I feel like, and the words he said was that it's a worthiness thing. And it's crazy to think that really successful people still struggle with, well, cool, I'm a man of God or I'm a woman of God or I believe these things, but heck, like I really like, how do I share that? And hearing you, Emily, saying like it's a fake brand, and I feel a calling to share what's on my heart, but who am I? Like
Mm,
how do you get someone that's just that they're feeling a calling to build the brand, to monetize the brand, to put themselves out there, but it's like
yeah.
am I enough?
Yeah, this is so powerful. Well, typically what's absent for people is being aware. Like it's like this man having that conversation with you is probably like, whoa, I'm actually saying it. So most people
Mm.
have never actually admitted what that man admitted to you. So what I have people do is I have them identify what area is it that is stopping you? So is it your belief around personal branding? Like you think it's, for influencers or for millennials and younger? Like what is the belief around it? Maybe you had people in your family, like my siblings don't even use Instagram. I'm the youngest. Like I could easily be indoctrinated into that mindset of like privacy, right?
Yeah.
And so it's then kind of going through the checklist. Is it a self-worth thing? I was in a huge meeting with a group of like 7 and 8 figure earner women, and one of them was like crying sitting there when I was going through the personal brand stuff. I was like, "What is your deal?" I'm like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, I don't know. I'm so scared to put myself out there."
Uh-huh.
And I was like, is it like a person you're scared of or a group of people? And she's like, yeah, it's actually my older kids. I'm so nervous of what they think. And
Yeah.
then it's actually my coworker as well. And I go, write their names down. And she wrote their names down. And I go, here's what you're going to do. You're going to call each person and you're going to say, hey, I've got stuff I want to share online, but the reason I'm not is because I'm afraid of what you're going to think of me. Just
Wow.
call them and say that. She was like, you want me to call my 26-year-old son? And I go, I do, because like you are not, this woman is like wealth of knowledge,
Yeah.
like old enough to be your and my mom.
Mm.
And she was like scared of what people would say. And I said, call them. And then what we're going to do is we're going to write down what the real problem is, which we already knew it was her kid, her coworker, her daughter. And I said, we're going to write down what is going to happen consequently from you not doing that. And we're going to go 5 layers deep. I'm not going to build my personal brand. I'm not, when I go to write a book, I'm going to have no one to sell it to. No one's, I'm going to continually live in regret. Like I call this stirring the hurt. So I was like,
Yeah.
let's stir all this up. We're going to take your disempowering statement and we're going to create an empowering statement. And you're going to face the music one step at a time. And that's how you create a real breakthrough.
I love it because there's two parts. It's let's create an empowering belief for the limiting belief, and that's where most
Uh-huh.
people stop. I'm great. Yeah, but the
Oh
thing that most
God.
people
Yeah.
miss is the courage to actually face it and make the calls, which is the thing that usually transforms the limiting belief is the action.
Oh,
Because then
yeah.
so again, that's a little bit out of context for today, but it's I love the intensity, and I think that's the thing I admire about you too is that, and you're such a great example for female and male powerhouse leaders is that you can, on the one hand, it's just let's get this done and let's
Yeah.
make it happen and confronting it. So let's do some quick rapid fires. So I just want first things that come to your mind, quick answer. I'm going to ask you 4 questions and I got 2 more questions after that and we're going to wrap up. I hope you're having fun. I think this is a great
Oh
conversation.
my gosh, this is so good.
Awesome. So what's the most important daily habit you recommend for building a powerful personal brand?
I would say show up even if your day is crazy, even if you are feeling like an introvert. So that's how you stay relevant and real. So, quick example, I get very introverted and very drained. I feel extremely deep. I'm an empath. And so even if I'm having like I need to lay in bed, I will still show a picture of that, like, and just let people know how I'm feeling because that's how you stay relevant.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm a projector in human design. Something I struggle with is I'm up and I got to take time to rest. So this is a bonus question. If you're somebody that is like that that needs to take the time away, so you would actually say still post a story or content every day, regardless of how you
Yeah.
feel.
Keep it 100.
Yep.
I am not superwoman, and nor do I claim to be. And people, the amount of, so I post, my husband took a picture of me sleeping with my dog the other day because I like to take naps.
Yeah.
And I posted it on my story, and the amount of women that said, thanks for showing you like resting. And I'm like, do you think I don't rest? Because I would love to binge watch every now and again like a thing on Netflix, and I actually do. And it's just like, again, it humanizes it because it's really who I am, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. And you need that because you do a lot of things. I haven't seen the Netflix or the sleeping on bed because I always see you doing things. So at least now I
Yeah.
know that you do sleep. So that's good. What's one piece of advice you would give to someone who feels unqualified to build their brand? We've spoken about it a bit, but distill it. What's one thing?
Get your notebook out and write out what's your passions, interests, and skills, and start to collect proof that you're qualified to talk about all of those things and more.
Hmm. Hmm. I love that. What's your definition of authenticity?
No filter, not questioning everything you're saying. It's just showing up, the good, the bad, the ugly, the unhinged, like all of it. You know what I mean? Like I just don't, just stop editing yourself. Like
Mm.
mhm.
Imagine.
Like yeah, I'm weird. I'm so weird
Yeah.
and I just don't care, you know?
I feel like that is the secret to building a personal brand. Realize that everybody, including yourself, is weird as heck and just accept it and share it because it's those weird ass things that people are like, wow, they're weird like me.
Exactly.
What's your definition of greatness?
Doing what God has called you to do. Like you know the answer. Like, and it's doing it to your best, the best of your ability. Stop cutting corners. We do everything great. It's not perfection. It's great. There's a difference. And so, and it's not striving. It's saying, how can I make my bed look nice? How can I take care of this customer? How can I go the extra mile? How can I have care in something? You know, like
Mm.
that separates you real fast.
What's a daily practice that you do to hear and know what God wants for you? For the person that's like, hey, because this used to be me, right? If I
Yeah,
knew what God wanted for me, I'd freaking do it. So, what's a daily
yeah.
practice you follow that allows you to hear and then know what God wants for you?
I have to walk. So in nature, I live on the Pacific Ocean over here in Orange County in California. I have to walk. So for me, it's like even this morning, I'm like, I talked to myself. Okay. And I'm like, we're not going to look at our Telegram. We're not going to go on Instagram. I'm not going to answer text messages. I'm going to put on a worship song or sometimes no worship. I'm just going to listen to the birds or the ocean or whatever. And when I'm in motion, I feel like I get more downloads where some people can like sit and pray. I would rather
Move.
walk and just like move, think, ask. I ask him stuff and then,
Hmm.
sometimes it's like I don't hear an audible answer. It's just like this
Inside.
ongoing, dialogue all day long. And I mean, that's really what I do.
I love that because one of the things that I've been praying for is to let go of the logical restraint that I have around me, to open myself up to the supernaturalness of God. But one of the things that has always held me back was the practicality of it. And I think that sometimes we make God a bit too woo-woo. It's like, does God have to come in and tap me on the shoulder and be like, Owen, do this? Yo, it's just being quiet, sitting or moving, like actually spend 30 minutes a day where you are with God. I'll link I've got the best prayer music. It's changed my life. I'm going to send it to you. I think you'll love it.
I can't wait.
And just asking questions, and then no, does it have to mean that that's a, hey, Owen, do this? Sometimes it's just you have a thought about someone or something or an idea. I think some people see images, some people hear, like we all experience different ways, and it doesn't have to. And then people say, well, how do I know it's God? Like, just trust that what you hear and then just follow that. It doesn't have to be so deep sometimes. I feel like if you could
100%.
just do that, and trust would be okay.
That is so powerful. And God also works through people
Yeah.
and who he sends in your life, the warning signs. So I'm constantly asking him, like, send me this person, make it clear, make it known, and signs and wonders and all the things that he does. You just have to pay attention and be in tune. And I'm very big on not being too like busy where there's so much coming at me, because I feel like that's what blocks my creativity. And when you're creative, it connects you to God because it's like you're like working with him on everything, you know? And so I'm like a stickler. Like Thursdays, nothing gets scheduled on my calendar so I can just be in flow.
Yeah, I feel like the Holy Spirit is in this room right now. I was just like, busyness blocks God. And as I was saying, I was thinking you just said exactly what I was. Busyness blocks God. And to be honest, before I ask you the last couple of questions, I feel like the most powerful thing that anyone can do in 2024 is just figure out a way to just be less busy. Like if there was a
Yeah.
domino that would change your life, maybe it's just me, it would be
No.
there's an app called Opal, which blocks apps on your phone. It is the best. It's changed my life. And like you said, intentionally creating space. And it is the hardest thing, like you said, it's the hardest thing to do because your nervous system, I know this has been a journey for me recently. Your body just wants to like eat itself because it's so used to but busyness blocks God, busyness blocks effectiveness, busyness blocks creativity. And it's not about the volume of things we do. We can actually achieve more with less by slowing down and connecting to him and listening.
I could not agree more. This is why I'm so protective with people when they're like, I want to do this and this and this and this. I'm like, slow your roll because you're not going to do any of that great if you do it all at once. Like, I have been like the pursuit of less instead of more, like essentialism. That is even in my house. Like, I'm like, what else can we get rid of? Like, I just less, 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 because you can think so much more clear,
Oh, yeah.
you know?
Presence of struggle is an indication of the bankruptcy of wisdom. And I feel like what you said there, it's just like the more busy we are, it just makes everything harder. So one last quote of yours. We kind of already touched on this, so I just want to give you the chance to share if you feel called to on this, and then we'll hear your final message. So turning everything off and turning on and connecting with God even more. I feel like I go after him times 10 when I'm creating something. Praying way more, listening to Hillsong music constantly. I chase him even harder because I don't want it to come from me. If it comes from me, this is deep, and not from God, it will not transform a soul because I am not that powerful. Only God is.
Yeah.
That's deep. You said that. Why is it so important for you to have everything you create be of God?
Because he's entrusted me with his people, and I don't want to spread something that's false, and I don't I don't want to lead people down the wrong path. And so it's
Mm,
like there's like this respect thing, when you respect someone or something, you want to do well for them. You want to give them your best. And so I feel like when I get these opportunities, I'm like, okay, don't let it be a copy and paste thing. I don't want to copy and paste this message. I want it to come from you because he already knows the arena I'm going into, who's sitting in seat number 5, row 6 on the way back. He already knows like all of this. And so I'm like, okay, I'm just a little messenger. So I need to seek him, and he's going to direct my footsteps. Like, seek first the kingdom of God and everything else will fall into place. And so just letting go of all the other things, like I just know it's going to fall into place. And it's just walking in that obedience. And that's like where there's so much freedom because it's not all on my shoulders. When people are like, oh, it's me and I'm doing it and I'm like, wow, like I hear you, but it's really not all you. Like, it shouldn't be all you. And so anytime I default back into that state that I used to be in a lot during my younger years, I'm like, okay, no, let's co-labor with God, and he's gonna jam with me. It's like a dance, you know. And even I was speaking in Mexico a couple of weeks ago. I was the only woman. It was all men entrepreneurs,
mm,
and I'm like, oh, he's like wants me to go there. I speak on generational transference a lot,
uh-huh.
which is really the real reason why people are blocked or not living
Mm,
healthy marriages and things like that. I was like, oh my gosh, like he really wants me to like go there with these. I'm like, I just know I'm praying backstage. I just know what I need to do. And so it's that letting go and letting him in and like letting him work. And this is just like the only way you ever get to this phase is, this is by developing out your faith and just by staying in it long enough, so that way it's like you're going to develop spiritually. And um the fruit on the other side of that is like being at the cocktail dinner and having grown men crying, being like, oh my gosh, I just texted my dad when I was in session and I haven't talked to him in 5 years. And like, and I'm like, this is why I do this.
mm,
So on the other side of that, fear is like so much fruit and obedience if you just trust and get over yourself, honestly.
mm, mm. Amen. I feel called to just share this metaphor with you on the subject of obedience and faith, and again, just kind of probably speaking to the past version of myself, knowing that there'll be other people that are listening, thinking, "Well,
Mm,
I want to have faith and obedience, but what the heck is it, and how do I do it?" And so,
yeah.
I heard a metaphor a while ago around faith or obedience, following what God wants you to do. So give the example of, let's say, someone, they've got this really successful business. They want to go and build and monetize a brand. And it's like seeing that the building a successful brand is at a door down the hallway, and you can see it. So you've had God like show you that this is the path. And so what we need to do is we need to run down the hallway towards that door 1 billion miles an hour. Like, let's go hard as you can. Then when you reach the door, one of two things will happen. You either get to the door and boom, you burst through it and you build the brand, you do the thing. Or the second thing is you get to the door and boom, you hit it, it doesn't open. You fall to the ground in a heap of despair. And you're like down on the ground, you're like in despair. And while you're kind of looking up, you look to your left and then you look to your right. And then all of a sudden you see another door that's cracked ever so open. But if you were down in the hallway from your previous perspective, you wouldn't have seen that door because you couldn't have
Wow.
seen it from where you were. So obedience is not a matter of getting what you want. It's having faith, knowing that you'll either get what you want or it'll lead to what's meant for you.
Oh, that is
That
so good.
changed my life.
That is so powerful. And then it's like, to your point, it's like if you don't get what you want, it's either God's protection, you know? So it
Yeah,
all just makes sense. You're just like, oh, wow, that's so good. We need a book from you. When is this coming?
I don't know. I got a lot of quotes. It's,
I
I'm a
know.
very logical mind, and but when I can understand, I'm like, faith is practical. Faith is the most practical thing in the world. Wow, this is so good. It's not this.
Wow.
It doesn't have to be this. It actually makes way more sense. What
Right.
doesn't make sense is not having faith and living in fear. Because if you live in fear, you'll
Mhm.
create your fear and you'll get what you want, what you don't want. Because if you focus on that, you'll create it.
Totally.
So, final message. You may have answered this question before, but I haven't heard your answer to it. So let's fast forward. Your Granny Emily, maybe you've got some
Um,
kids with Jake, I don't know, but you're heading towards the end of your life and your billions of social media posts and podcasts and speaking engagements, they're all wiped out. Nothing exists. There's no record of you whatsoever. And you have one chance to leave a final message with your family and people to remember you by. It's a lot of pressure. This is a big question. What would you say to them?
oh my word, I'm gonna cry. Man, what would I say? Like, can it be a book or can it just be like a sentence?
It's
Uh,
you're speaking it to them. We don't have time for you to write a book.
I,
Sorry.
yeah, you know what in the end, like what you think matters doesn't matter. And to live every day like it is the last and to like book the trip, be with your loved ones, like just stop taking, be serious but don't be too serious. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I would just tell people like none of this matters in the end. What matters is, am I going to heaven and am I bringing people with me? And so did I really do what I'm supposed to do? Like just I think we're all just like trying to take a breath over. Everyone's like like so it's like what's happening in the world, blah blah blah, blah. There's so much fear, and then you kind of have to take a step back from the chaos and go, what like really matters. And I'm not saying like world stuff doesn't matter, but like what really really matters. And did I make a difference? And so I would say go out there and make a difference and stop acting like you have all this time. Stop. Move with urgency. Ask God to direct your footsteps, and you know what to do from there. That's what I would say.
Mm-hmm. It's a deep question, isn't it? And
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
beautifully put. So thank you for this incredible conversation. I again just want to honor you for real. For you are a beacon of light, and you are an incredible testament to owning your gifts and transforming souls in the world through being you. You don't just tell people to be authentic and go after what that, like, you are a living example of that. Your brand really is you. You are your brand, and it's just really beautiful to see someone with such humility and leadership and power and passion just doing their thing in the world. And it was a pleasure
Thank
to
you.
have this conversation with you.
I loved this conversation and I cannot wait to share this with so many people. You're an amazing interviewer. I feel like, wow, like everyone needs to hear this. And I'm so proud of you, Owen, for walking in your obedience. Like I feel like we're on a similar path, you know what I'm saying? And it's just really cool to see like when you catch up with someone 2 years later and you're like, wow, God did all that. I'm
Heck yeah.
honored.
Yeah, likewise. So thank you.
Thank you.